Welcome everybody to my webinar. I am Heather Halliday. I'm a certified nutritional therapist and a holistic nutritionist, and thank you for joining me today with my webinar, From Constant Frustration to Finally Gaining Control of Your Weight, and not just your weight but your overall health. I hope that I can bring you some insight as to why you may be struggling with your health and your weight. So how do you know if this training's for you? You know this training's for you if you struggle with your weight on a daily basis, or even if it's more recently. I hope to give you some answers. This training's for you if you constantly feel tired and sometimes exhausted. There's so many different reasons. Our bodies are so complex, and I hope to shed some light on some reasons why you might be exhausted. This training's for you if you literally feel like you have tried everything and nothing works and nobody's listening. I've heard that more than once in my professional career, for sure. You know, this training's for you if you want to get back to feeling like yourself. You're tired of whatever it is, whether you're struggling with issues around weight, fatigue, if you've got eczema or digestive issues. I think we're going to shed some light on what could be going on with you today. This training is for you if you don't want to spend a fortune on groceries and products, and certainly fad diets, because if you struggle with your weight, chances are that you've probably ended up on the diet train. So we're going to try and get you off that and get you back to feeling like yourself and feeling healthful. This training is for you if you don't want to give up your favorite foods. You know, we're attached to food in a lot of different ways. And, you know, yes, it's true. If you're trying to get healthy, you might have to get up your Dunkin' Donuts, or you might have to change the way you think or what pizza is, but we can always find a substitution. So I'm going to help you find some substitutions so you don't feel deprived and it feels like something that you can accomplish for a lifetime. This training is for you if you're overwhelmed and don't know what to do or how to even do it. I'm going to help guide you through that and hopefully give you some solutions. So what are you going to learn today? You're going to learn about what inspired me to help others with their struggles and the lessons I've learned along the way. You know, there's a lot of reasons why people get into the health industry, and it's usually heal thyself. You know, we get into it because we either have things that are going on with ourselves that we want to understand more, or loved ones. So I'm going to inform you on different things that I've learned along the way. You're also going to learn 3 myths you may have about eating healthy that's sabotaging your weight. You know, you could actually be doing something thinking that you're actually helping yourself, and you could actually be sabotaging your weight and your health. You're also going to learn 5 steps to getting back to feeling like yourself again. Who doesn't want to do that? So what inspired me? This is my daughter Keely, who is going to be 4 in February. She is a bright light in my life, and you know, if you are a parent, you probably understand the drive of wanting to get better and be well and be your absolute best self. And she certainly does that for me, and she's really cute too, so that helps. So, you know, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and it's complicated. It's not so black and white. And even though a lot of what I'm referencing today may be on the level of weight or talking about weight gain or weight loss, I want you to know that this actually transcends that. Anything that I'm talking about today, we can definitely apply to any health issue you might have. So whether that's being a skin condition, whether you can't sleep at night, whether you have depression, anxiety, all of this actually plays into your story as well. This just happens to be my personal journey, and it's one that I can speak of. And it also happens to be a journey that a lot of people struggle with too. It's probably the number one question I get asked as a nutritional therapist is, how can I lose weight? So that's a big reason why we're covering this topic today. So boy, I'm in my late 40s, and 20, 30 years ago, the fad was low fat, no fat. At that time, we thought that was the absolute number one way to take care of weight issues and also take care of your health issues. And in my family, we had heart disease. So my mom sought out what she thought was the absolute best diet for us, which at the time was low fat, no fat. So, things have changed a little bit since then, and hopefully I'm going to shed some light on, how you can find out as a bio individual what the best kind of diet's going to be for you. So I ate low fat, no fat most of my life, and then in my late 20s, early 30s, I started to gain weight, and I couldn't understand why I was gaining weight. I hadn't changed anything. My activity level was the same. The foods that I were eating the same. So why was something happening to my body? And even though that was a real source of frustration for me, I can look back now and say, actually, the single event of my body choosing to hold on to weight has probably saved my life. Because if I would have never gained a pound, if I would have continued being thin like I had the previous 25 years, I would have had no reason to look at food as a form of medicine. So even though I struggled emotionally, physically with being heavy and not understanding what was going on with my body, it ended up being just a true blessing in the end. So what did I do? I started off this journey with confusion, emotional confusion, and just trying to figure out what the heck to do because I had never really struggled with my weight before. So I thought, I'm going to go to the doctor. The doctor will have some answers. Surely he's going to do a blood test. Something will come up, and then we'll know what to do with it. But I would go to doctor after doctor, and the same thing kept on coming up, which is just exercise more and eat less. I couldn't be more frustrated because honestly, if I had eaten any less or exercised any more, I would be like on the ground because I was starving all the time. I can look back at that now and know that I was completely undernourishing my body, and my body was screaming for real food. But I didn't know better, right? So then, what ends up happening is if you're doing exactly what the doctors are telling you to do, you're exercising, you're limiting your calories, but nothing seems to be happening, it's depressing. You end up getting down on yourself thinking, what is wrong with me? What could I possibly be doing wrong? It seems to be working for other people. Why don't other people struggle with their weight? Why am I struggling with my weight? And in society, they've painted this picture that if you struggle with your weight, you must be lazy, you're unmotivated, you must sit in the corner and eat bonbons, you don't care about your health, and that in itself is really depressing. So that's not a fun place to be when you feel like nobody's listening to you and you're made to feel crazy. So, making connections, uncovering so many answers, but not one of them that I was looking for. So I was doing all this work on myself. I thought, okay, I did the doctor route. No success. I did the eliminating calories, no success. I did the exercise portion, no success. So I was going to start to think outside of the box, and I started to do therapy. I did therapy for about 10 years. I did group therapy. I did weekend retreats. I did seminars. I did online classes. I studied shamanism. I reached out to spiritual teachers. I did a lot of things because surely somewhere in there, I was going to be able to unlock some of those keys. I don't regret anything that I did. All those things that I did made me a better person in who I am today, and frankly, a better practitioner for my clients. But at the end of the day, after all that work, everything that I'd done, I was still struggling with my weight. So I just knew that there was something else going on that hadn't been uncovered. So at that time, I started to explore alternative medicine because I had gone traditional medicine route with no success. So I was going to look and see if maybe naturopaths or alternative medicine doctors can help me. And at that time, I actually learned about food allergies and food sensitivities. I learned that I had a gluten sensitivity, and that was almost 20 years ago. And you can imagine 20 years ago, nobody knew what the heck gluten was. So that was a real challenge, trying to figure out how to be gluten-free. I also learned about supplementation, and I also learned about real food and how it could actually help heal my body. So again, I didn't get the results that I was looking for, but I did learn some amazing things about my body, and it's really what sparked my interest into whole foods and learning more about nutrition. But I wasn't done. I wasn't going to give up yet. I had one more route that I wanted to try. I needed to do this piece for myself to make sure that I wasn't crazy. So I joined this program. It was over $13,000. I spent a year and a half of my time, and I exercised with a trainer. I exercised on my own. As a part of this program, they also had a therapist, dietitian, all sorts of stuff. And after that year and a half, I think I lost about 10 or 15 pounds. And in my mind, that was kind of the answer that I was looking for. Right then and there, I knew I wasn't crazy because I was doing everything that I was told to do, and nothing seemed to be working. I'm not going to shake a stick at 10 or 15 pounds. That's actually great. But I probably had 40 to lose, maybe 50 at the time. So at least I knew that I wasn't crazy. Yes, I invested $13,000. It didn't get me to where I wanted to be, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it was the answer that I was looking for. So after spending this time and commitment to learning how to exercise, which by the way is phenomenal, there's so many great aspects to exercises. It helps in detox, it helps strengthen your muscles, it helps your cardiovascular system. So I don't want to say that what I did was a complete waste. It just didn't get me to my goal of figuring out the key to unlock my weight issue. But I did. Again, I learned so much about my body. So at this time, I started exploring again in alternative health and learned about the term leaky gut. And after doing a lot of reading and researching, I said, oh my gosh, this is definitely a piece of my health story that I have to check out. So I spent about a year and a half healing my gut. I had, again, amazing things happen to my body, but ultimately it wasn't my main goal, which was trying to figure out why my body was holding on to weight. Again, I don't regret it. It was an amazing experience and I learned so much, but it didn't get me to where I wanted to go. But what it did teach me is about real food and learning how to take real food and make meals out of it. You know, most of us in our 40s and even 30s and younger have lived on processed foods. We were raised on processed foods. The whole low fat, no fat phase, all processed foods. It was all about pastas and breads and lean cuisines and all of that stuff. And when I started healing my gut and I learned about real nutrient-dense foods, all these things started to click. So I knew I was on the right path. I was headed in the right direction, and I was super excited to start the process of learning more about whole foods. So even though I didn't get my goal, my ultimate goal of trying to lose weight, all the things that I had done up until this point, little bits were helping. My emotional being and who I was as a person was healed. I did so much healing there. I learned so much about spirituality and myself and how that connects with me. So much healing there. I learned about how to use my physical body in the right way. So much healing there. I healed my gut and a lot of autoimmune disorders and different things happening in my body. So much healing there. So even though I didn't lose my weight, at the age of 45, I was able to get pregnant. So that's pretty amazing. That was all from all the previous work I had done. So even though it wasn't the blessing I was looking for, it was definitely a blessing. So, you know, then life happens. When my daughter Keely was 6 months old, I was involved in a horrific car accident. So horrific that, it severed fingers, it tore every ligament and tendon in my hand and my wrist. I underwent about 5 surgeries in 14 months between the birth of my daughter and all my hand surgeries. And guess what? I started to gain weight again. No big surprise there. So, yes, we may spend a lot of time trying to figure out our body, but the one thing I learned from that lesson, because I knew what was going on with my body, is like, oh my gosh, if we are struggling with our weight or any of those other health issues that we have going on, like I said, it could be digestive issues, it could be, depression, anxiety, that's your body's way of showing you that something is out of balance. We have been told for so long that if these things are happening, it must be, you're eating all these other foods or these different things are going on. But our body's just trying to tell us that something isn't right. And in that moment, in the accident, and knowing everything that I had done for my body and all the healing that I had done, it was my body's way of saying something needs to happen, something isn't quite right. So again, even though this accident was devastating and it has forever changed the direction of my life, I feel so completely blessed. I know that seems maybe a little odd, but it brought me to where I am today. I feel like I'm much more in tune with myself. I have a better understanding of who I am and where I'm at and the things that are important to me in my life. So even though it was a tragedy, it was also a blessing. And I think we need to look for those when things happen in our lives. So the thing that I know, though, is that I went through all those years of healing my body, healing my emotions, healing my spirit. I know, as I sit here today, struggling with my weight again, that I can heal. I have the tools, I have the information and knowledge. It's about figuring out how to unlock all those keys and answers again. And actually, in the last couple months, I recently got diagnosed with a condition called chronic inflammatory stress response. And it really points back to why I've had so many problems over these last 20 years. So I at least now, because I'm a seeker and I never ever give up, which is what I'll encourage you to do. If you know something isn't right in your body, trust your instincts, that there are answers and solutions out there. It's just about knowing what direction to go and trusting your gut instinct. So here I have this diagnosis. It's a big one. It's not going to be easy, but I feel so blessed that I've all the things that have happened before this date and time have led me to being able to uncover this piece of me. So I'm about to start another healing journey, and I know with everything that I've done in the past, it's only going to help me along my journey now. So let's get started. Let's talk about myth number 1. This is one of my favorites, right? If you struggle with your weight, you are lazy, unmotivated, and always eating. I don't know about you, but if you aren't struggling with your weight, or even if you are, most people that have had a weight issue have literally tried it all, right? Isn't that a big part of why you're here today, is because you're hoping that someone will give you something that inspires you or clicks with you? So the other thing that I can tell you too is that if we think about all that's out there as far as dieting and losing weight and gaining your health, if those things actually worked, if Weight Watchers work, Jenny Craig work, all these fad diets work, wouldn't we all be thin, especially those of us that struggle? Yeah, we would. So the problem with those diets, they may work for some, but they don't work for everybody because we are bio-individuals. We each have our own story. Anything that's happened to you up until this date and time is definitely reflected in your body. Then we have our history with our family, genetics. There's so many different components. So to think that it's just about being lazy and unmotivated and always eating, that's a really naive way to look at people that might be struggling with their weight. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold, if you can't tell. So myth number 2, to lose weight, you have to restrict calories. Again, we can refer back to the Weight Watchers, the Jenny Craigs, those fad diets. Almost every single one of them tells you to restrict calories and exercise more. And the truth is if you're actually eating real food, if you're eating real nutrient-dense whole foods, calories never come into play. In fact, when before I got pregnant, I reached kind of a stable weight, not where I wanted to be, but a stable weight. And I was able to keep that off for 3 or 4 years. And I was probably eating anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day. So the calories actually matter if you're going to be eating a bunch of garbage food, right? And it's not calories that make you fat. It's the sugar and the processed foods and the unhealthy fats that they put into these processed foods that are making you fat. It's not calories. So the other thing to keep in mind too, if you're struggling with your weight, it could be a hormone imbalance. And when I'm talking about hormones, I'm talking more about more than just the sex hormones. For instance, insulin. Insulin is a fat-storing hormone. So if you're eating a bunch of processed foods loaded full of sugar, chances are your blood sugar levels are going to spike. And if your blood sugar levels are high enough, more insulin is produced, and insulin, in effect, causes your body to hold on to weight. It's a fat-storing hormone. The other great one is cortisol. We now live in a 24/7 society. Most anybody I know that is working isn't working 8 to 5 anymore. Sometimes they're working at 10 or 11 at night, or they're getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning. They've got conference calls, to Japan or all over the world. So your body, though, doesn't know that the stress that you're under isn't a result of you being chased from a bear, which is a big part of why your body has this system called your adrenals. Your adrenals were set there in place, if you think about the caveman days. If there was a bear approaching you, you needed to be able to pick up a little extra energy and hightail it out of there. Well, now your body actually looks at those conference calls at 3 o'clock in the morning or working until 10 o'clock at night as if you're being attacked by a bear. So those adrenal glands are constantly being utilized and overutilized and end up pumping out a bunch of cortisol. And guess what? Cortisol is a weight storing hormone. So we could go on about that, but there's a lot of different hormones involved that cause weight issues. So it's not a calorie issue. So far we've covered, it could be the type of foods that you're eating. It could be a hormone imbalance. And then if we really think about that too, think about our ancestors. Think about, let's see, if I'm 50, like my great-grandmother, their generation, late 1800s, early 1900s, they didn't have weight issues. They didn't have autoimmune disorders. They didn't have an obesity epidemic. They didn't have diabetes. They didn't have Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and cancer up the yin-yang because they were actually eating real food. They didn't have processed foods back then. Processed foods didn't come into the picture until around World War II. So think about that. Look at the difference in our health compared to our ancestors. I'm not saying that disease didn't happen back then, but it certainly wasn't as prevalent. And you certainly didn't have this massive obesity epidemic. So just think about that a little bit. And, the other thing is too, I'm not saying that exercise isn't important, because it is. But there's also this myth out there that you have to exercise a ton in order to lose weight. Exercise, like I said, does amazing things for your body. But actually the number one component to actually being able to lose weight has to do with the foods that you're eating. So keep that in mind as well. Myth number 3, you have to spend all your time in the kitchen and all your money on organic food. So is organic food important? Yeah, to a certain degree it is. But understanding which foods that you should buy organic and foods that you don't need to buy organic. I'll cover that in a second. But if we're thinking about healing our body, so if we're shifting our mindset of just losing weight to actually getting healthy, pesticides are in non-organic foods. Not that organic foods are 100% perfect, but they're certainly less in pesticides than regular traditional foods. So the other piece of it is too, is you just have to do what you can. If you can't afford to buy all organic foods, or if you can't afford to buy off the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 list, which I'm going to go over here in a second, at least if you're eating whole nutrient-dense foods, you're going to be much better off than if you're eating a bunch of box foods that you find in the center of the grocery store. So, and the other thing is too, is there's strategies that we can put in place so that you're not spending all your time in the kitchen. And I'm going to go over some of that stuff as well. So here is your shopper's guide to pesticides. So if you want a copy of this, you can go to my website, download the PDF. But basically, this is just a resource that tells you which foods you should eat, always organic, and foods that you don't have to worry about that have low level of pesticides. So just for example, strawberries, spinach, nectarines, apples, peaches, pears, cherries, grapes, celery, tomatoes, sweet bell pepper, and potatoes, you should always eat those organic. Those are going to have the most concentrated of pesticides on them. Then, like sweet corn, avocados, pineapple, cabbage, onions, sweet peas, papayas, asparagus, mangoes, eggplants, honeydew, kiwi, cantaloupe, cauliflower, and eggplant. Doesn't matter. So don't waste your money on organic avocados because you don't need to buy them organic. It'd be a waste of money. So let's get back to feeling like yourself again. Don't you want more energy, more clarity, more focus? Wouldn't we like to sleep better, have less anxiety, and a more powerful immune system? Food has a direct impact on all of these things. And who doesn't want their clothes to fit better? Don't we all want our clothes to fit better, especially after the holidays, right? And a real plan that you can follow so that you can have success. So here's keys to success. Number one, prepare your home and pantry and family for whole foods eating. I can't explain how important this is. And there's lots of different things that I go over in my Restart program. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But I'm going to give you a couple little tips that will help you get started right away. So one of my favorite things to do is batch cooking. What that means is I go to the grocery store, I buy all the meats that we're going to eat for the next 2 weeks. Anything from burgers to pork to chicken, you name it. My husband and I batch cook all this meat. We undercook it just a little bit so when we go to reheat it, we're not overcooking it. Then we store some in the refrigerator for immediate use and some in the freezer. The nice thing about that is it's all done for 2 weeks. That's a majority of what your time is going to be wasted on is prepping the meats, right? So now it's all done. And if I feel like having, chicken and my husband wants steak, it's not a big deal. If you've got a house full of people, this will actually make your life so much easier because the base of what you need is already done. The other thing I do is I bring home all my vegetables and I prep them. I cut them, wash them, clean them, and I put them in the refrigerator. Now I'll pull my meat out for that dinner or that lunch, and then, I don't know, maybe I'm going to have stir fry. Maybe I'm going to have a beautiful salad. Maybe I'm going to roast my vegetables. I don't know, but they're all done. They're all prepped. They're all ready to go. I've got 2 weeks worth of meat, and then I probably go to the grocery store a couple times a week for the vegetables because those obviously don't keep for a 2-week time period, and it's all ready to go. And then if we're talking about our family, the one thing that I want to remind you, if you're sitting here listening to me today, it's because you have some health concerns that you want to address. And as much as we want our family to go on a health journey for us, it may not be their time. But it should never, ever stop you from trying to gain your best healthful self. So focus on yourself. If you need to ask your family members if they bring things into the home that maybe aren't appropriate for you, maybe they're a trigger food for you, you can ask them to keep them somewhere else. or you can have a dedicated space in the pantry or a cupboard just for you. So you know if you're getting hungry, you can go directly to that spot without being triggered by all the other things. So remember, this is about your journey and your health story, and I want you to really embrace that. So how and where to shop for the best deals? You know, we're a family of 3, and as a result of my car accident, I lost my career as a massage therapist. So our finances have shifted drastically. As much as I would love to shop at Whole Foods and our local co-op, it's just not in our family's budget anymore. And as much as I would love to always buy organic everything, it's not a reality for us anymore. So I had to get really smart and really clever when it came to providing healthy foods for our family. And believe it or not, my favorite place in the whole wide world is Costco. They have great, great resources there. You can get lovely vegetables, either fresh or frozen, and frozen's fine too, and often it's a lot less expensive. They also have a lot of other things that go into cooking my meals. So I buy a lot there. They have Kerrygold butter, which is to die for. That's a grass-fed butter. They've got a great price on eggs, hemp seeds, chia seeds, all sorts of great stuff. I know those words might be foreign to you, but you'll get to know them. They'll be your friends. Sometimes I buy my meat there. They've got a great price on organic chickens, and they don't have grass-fed beef, but they have organic beef, and sometimes I can't afford to always do grass-fed. Sometimes it is just organic, or sometimes it has to be just ground beef. Just do the best you can and know that whatever you're doing, as long as you're conscious about it, is going to be a good thing. So here's the other thing too. It's time to throw out the scale and get out the measuring tape and pay attention to your body. The scale is such a volatile thing. You could weigh yourself 5 different times throughout the day and you're going to be a different weight. You could put that scale in 5 different locations, you're going to be a different weight. And really, when it comes to measuring our health, we need to start changing our perspective a little bit and think about other things that could be causing health issues. So what if you were to step on the scale and the scale didn't budge, but you notice that you don't have headaches anymore, or you're sleeping better at night and you're getting an actual restful sleep, that you're not as puffy, that your stomach is actually like kind of flat, or that you're not retaining as much water? Aren't those all wonderful things? And aren't those all kind of what we're looking for, even if we are trying to lose weight? So by stepping on that scale, it's almost like you're setting yourself up for a failure. Because if you step on that scale and that scale doesn't say a number that you'd like, you're internalizing all that anxiety that goes along with that number. And honestly, it just doesn't matter. My scale is out in storage. Like, I have to walk across a parking lot and into another building and get out a key. So if I want to weigh myself, I got to work really, really hard for it. So just think about your health in a different perspective of how to measure it. Like, how are your clothes fitting? That's a huge indication of positive moves for your body. So keys to success number 4, stop counting calories. I touched on this a little bit, but calories don't matter if you're actually eating real food. But if you're going to continue to eat garbage, and you're going to continue to go to Starbucks, and you're going to continue to go through drive-thrus, then you better count your calories. And even though it's less about calories and more about the quality of food, the sugars and the fats, those things are loaded. You know, how those frappuccinos, I don't know how many calories are. Let's say they're, 5,000. I don't know if that's realistic or not. But of those 5,000 calories, probably most of it is made out of sugar and unhealthy fats. So if you're eating actually real food, real sugars, real good healthy fats, then your calories don't matter. So it's a complete mind shift. And the thing that I want to tell you is that if this is a new concept for you, wouldn't it be interesting to try it out and see if it actually works? Because you're listening to me because what you've done in the past hasn't worked. Maybe by doing Weight Watchers, you'll lose weight for a certain amount of time, but then you end up gaining it back. And the reason isn't because you're lazy and unmotivated, it's because your body was starving. Your body was literally starved of nutrients. And so if there is something going on with your body, it's going to hold on to the weight to make sure that you can survive. So think about it in a different light, in a different way. So one of the biggest issues with having success is being able to have support. Support is key. So, think about this. When we know better, we can actually do better. Knowledge is power. If you have knowledge and information about your body, about your health, about foods, about nutrients, about digestion, about blood sugar levels, then you can actually make a conscious choice. If you don't know, then you're working from a place of being uninformed, and that's never a good idea. So Harvard Business Journal did a study on why 97% of people do not accomplish their goals. And the number one main reason for their failure is that they didn't have anyone to be accountable for. And that's what I want to be for you. I'm going to talk about my Restart program here very shortly. I want to be your accountability partner, and I want to help you overcome those hurdles that end up getting in your way. So getting support, and we can't always get support from our family members because they're in a different place, or our friends because they're in a different place. But you can get support from a community of people that are like-minded and on the same journey as you. So think about it from that perspective. So what's next? For some of you, you may have the tools that you need to get moving in the right direction. Maybe I provided some clarity or inspiration or a spark. For other people, you're feeling overwhelmed and curious about what you can do. And that's why I'm going to tell you now about Restart. So let's restart your life. Let's give you tools that you need to be successful and start to feel better without struggling so much. That's so important. I want to be able to teach you, educate you, inform you, so this doesn't have to be a battle, but this is going to end up being a way of eating. You're going to learn so much about your body, how it works, how it functions, and I want to be there to help support you. I'm going to help you get more energy so that you can play with your kids or grandkids and do all those physical activities that you'd like to. And yeah, weight might be a part of why you haven't done physical activity, but the other piece is if there's all those other components that aren't functioning right, gosh, just eating food that isn't right for our body is going to drain our energy. And I'm going to help you figure out what foods are right for your body. So to gain more clarity, that's the other thing too. How often do you hear people talking about having a foggy brain? Well, that's a big part of the foods that we put into our body, but we aren't taught that as Americans. So I'm going to educate you and teach you more about how foods affect you. And we're going to gain more clarity and focus and build your business to start that volunteer project that you've always wanted to do. We're going to educate you on what you need to do to change your life for good so that you can get off this hamster wheel and start doing things in a very, very different way. So here we go. This is what the Restart program is all about. Excuse me. We're going to teach you how to prepare for real food sugar detox. So in order to overcome any of your health issues, whether it be your weight or the other things that we touched on, we have to get you detoxed off of sugar. Because if you've been eating processed foods, which most Americans have, that's why we are the unhealthiest nation in the world, is because we're so focused on processed foods. I'm going to teach you how to do that, and incorporated in that is a sugar detox. And what a better time to do it than after the holidays, right? I'm going to teach you about your digestion. Digestion is a huge key to your overall health, and if it's not functioning properly, then that could actually be a key to your puzzle. So I'm going to actually teach you about your digestion, and we're going to look into what could possibly be going wrong with that. And then we're going to figure out and learn about what sugar is really doing to your body. It is devastating, the effects of sugar and how they affect your insulin levels and your inflammation levels. So I'm going to educate you and teach you all about that. We're going to learn the truth behind fat, because fat has been this huge, scary thing that people have avoided for so long, thinking that fat is making you fat. And we've already said that it's not the fat that makes you fat. It's actually the sugar and the processed foods and the garbage foods that make you fat. So I'm going to educate you about the truth of fats, and we're going to learn how to incorporate those good, healthy fats into our diet, and how those fats can help you lose weight and get you to feeling better. And then I'm going to teach you practical ways to how to take everything that we've learned, implement them into your life so that you can move forward and have success. And I also have a private Facebook group. You know, when we're talking about support and continued support, it's a great place that we can share recipes. We can reach out if we're struggling. So it's just another way to get support along this journey, which is a huge key to being successful. So with Restart, it's 5 weeks of support in a group training program. The other thing I like about that too is I have some people that come in and do one-on-one sessions with me, but it's not something that they can afford to do on a continual basis because it's expensive. So with the Restart program, I'm actually able to give you some amazing information in an affordable package. So we've got 5 weeks of support in a group training program. We've got our private Facebook group. I'm going to give you shopping lists so you can figure out exactly what you can and can't eat. We're going to go over recipes. I'm going to give you resources of different places to be able to find recipes. And then you're going to get support from me. I'm going to be your accountability partner. And then you're going to get support from the group as well. So typically this class is about $300 for the 5-week program, but I'm actually offering it for $147. And the biggest reason why I'm doing that is I want to make it affordable for just about everybody. So I'm going to go over some of the questions that people come up with when they're talking to me about whether or not Restart's a fit for them. So what if I'm not ready to implement all the changes in my life right now? And the thing that I say is that everybody does it differently. For some people, they're going to be ready. They're going to go all in, both feet, and go for it. They're going to take off. They're going to do awesome. For other people, it's like information overload, change of habit overload. So I've had some participants that will go and take it the first time. They'll soak it all in. They'll digest all the information. And then they'll take it a second time when they're actually ready to implement the next step. And then people have different levels of success. Maybe somebody's just trying to get off diet soda. Maybe somebody is trying to figure out how to be gluten-free. If they accomplish that but aren't able to implement the whole program, that is success. So it's going to look different for all of us. But I can tell you the information that you learn over the course of the 5 weeks is invaluable. It's incredible information. So what if you don't want to give up all your favorite foods? Well, we touched a little bit on that earlier. I am the queen of being able to find alternatives. So if there is something that you're really attached to, I guarantee you we'll find you something else that will replace that. So don't let that stop you from reclaiming your health. So what if I'm really overwhelmed right now? Well, the truth is that's the reality of being a human in this world, is that everything that we do are moving towards can be really overwhelming. I can't tell you how many people I've heard over the course of the years is like, we're really just not ready to have a kid, but you kind of have to jump in and do it. You'll figure it out. This isn't a child, but it is about reclaiming your health. So yeah, it can be overwhelming, but that's a big part of why we have support, and we're going to be there for each other. So what if you don't have time for this? I can tell you I'm a busy mom with a toddler starting a new business. I've got so much going on, and you always have to find time for your health. It's about prioritizing, and it's also finding out tricks and different ways of doing things to make it in a very manageable way, which is really what I'm all about. I want to make being healthy doable for everybody. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I've got some classes coming up here. I've got some online classes that I'll be teaching. They begin on Monday, January 15th. I've got one at noon. and I've got one at 6 p.m. Those are both about an hour and a half long. I'm going to provide you with a bunch of information along the way, and plus you'll have your support of your community. I'm also going to do an in-person if you're local here in Redmond. So there's a couple different options. I'm going to be sending you out a playback of this webinar along with any information about the classes if you'd like to join me. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but health and feeling like yourself again in this 2018. So thank you so much. Please reach out if you have any questions, and look in your inbox tomorrow for the playback. Have a great evening.